Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope all of you and your loved ones would be doing fine and enjoying good health. First of all, I would like to inform you again that today we had some discussion with all the faculty members regarding your final term exams, which are about to start in the upcoming weeks, maybe in the third week of this month or in the last week of this month, your exams would start, and the in the maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, a meeting with all the faculty members would be conducted by the with the HOD to discuss the pattern of your final term examinations and your assignment work. But probably it would be quite similar with the way we usually conduct your exams. Definitely it's gonna be a 50 marks examination, and 20 marks will be spared for the assignment, which I have already asked you to give me your assignment topics. So probably in this week I'll let you know about the final criteria for your upcoming final term examination. So I advise all of you again that you keep preparing for your final term exams well, and try not to leave any loophole as far as your preparation for the final term exams are concerned. Okay. Okay, let's get back to our topic of today's discussion. And in our previous lecture, we had discussion about the key questions regarding the US public diplomacy that requires extensive research to be made on. And today we will start with the history of the US public diplomacy. When did it actually start? And in we will spare I guess 2 to 3 lectures to discuss the history of the US public diplomacy, and we will try to be a bit brief about that, because if we will try to get a thorough analysis of the history of the US diplomacy, that would require much more time, which we might not have, as your exams, final term exams, are about to start. So we would start with the history of the US public diplomacy, and hopefully in 2 to 3 lectures we will complete this topic, and then if we will have time, we will try to explore various other aspects of US public diplomacy, or the diplomatic discourse of the United States of America. So when we look at the early phase of the US public diplomacy, we came to know that the US had not any organized setup to manage the affairs of the public diplomacy, as they lacked organization, and it was until the early 20th century that and there was no organized setup to conduct the business of public diplomacy by the United States of America. And by the start of the 20th century, US made some concrete steps in that very direction. But even before that, like the informal mechanism to conduct public diplomacy or to manage public diplomacy by the United States was there. So we can say that the informal people-to-people connections were already there before the start of 20th century. So we can make a statement that the Americans did exist in the international community as far as their practices to public diplomacy are concerned. So there were various forms that the public diplomacy has been managed through by the US administrations or policymakers. First of all, as we have discussed earlier in our general discussions about diplomacy, that diplomats are the ones who regulate or who manages the affairs of diplomacy and journal and the public diplomacy as well. And the founding fathers, James Jefferson and Ben Franklin, they are the ones deserve to be nominated in that very regard here. And the other mechanism or tool through which they carried on with their practices of public diplomacy is through the missionaries such as the schools, libraries, and hospitals. Further, the entertainment has also been utilized by the Americans to demonstrate their culture, which is a key aspect of the public diplomacy of any country. So the entertainment such as minstrel shows, Buffalo's Bill's Wild West show, etc. They are the ones which were there to entertain the public, and through those entertainments, the culture, the values of the US society has been propagated throughout the world. And the next one is the world fairs. And like the world fairs have also been employed or utilized by the Americans to like propagate their cultural values. And 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago was one glaring example of that. And the last one is the foreign study. This is one of the most common method to adopt by the various countries around the world to project their public diplomacy. And through student exchange programs, they emphasize their public diplomacy goals in various countries around the world. And through this through this plan of action, or through this method, the US students and scholars traveled to Europe in 19th century. And nowadays we can see this practice that so many countries around the globe are involved in sending or receiving the scholars and school students from around the world to project their positive image in the rest of the world. And here it is imperative to discuss the tremendous influence of German institutes structures on America's structure of education. And here it can be mentioned that the US was not only influencing the other countries around the world in terms of propagating their cultural values and their structures and their philosophy or political values along with their cultural values, but also they were on the receiving end, as here we can see that the Americans like university structure was influenced by the German structure of institutes or education. So these were the that was the early phase of the US public diplomacy, and now we will start with the events through which the United States put their effort to propagate or to practice their public diplomacy. So first of all, we will talk about the Boxer Rebellion. So before getting into the Boxer Rebellion discussion, it was in 1899 when the Secretary of State John Hay sends note to European counterparts proclaiming the general opposition to the spheres of interest that was the common uh, method utilized in the closed door policy or closed diplomacy, as we have discussed that in our earlier discussion. So the it paved a way for the US open door policy or open door diplomacy, and a year later, the Boxer Rebellion started in China, and but before talking about the Boxer Rebellion, it is imperative here for us to have a basic overview of what was the Boxer Rebellion. So it was an uprising against the foreigners that occurred in China in 1900, and basically it was launched by the peasants, but eventually it was supported by the government of China later on. And as far as the term Boxer is concerned, a Chinese secret society is known as the Boxers, which embarked on violent campaign to drive all the foreigners out from China. So that was the uprising, that was the violent campaign launched by the peasants in China against the foreigners and to drive them out of China. So, and Qing Empire, which was there in power at that time, got defeated and fined by dollar 333 million. So, and the US share of indemnity was around 7.32% plus the interest rate. And eventually US set up a program in 1908 and 1909 to utilize that indemnity funds for education. So here we can say that the indemnity funds were employed by the Americans to uh, propagate their public diplomacy, or to materialize their efforts for public diplomacy. As far as the Boxer Rebellion indemnity, scholars are concerned, in China in 1909 to 1929, almost 1300 Chinese students prepared for future study at the American university. So most of the indemnity fund secured by the Americans was utilized for the education purposes, which is one of the key aspects of the cultural diplomacy, and that is considered as a practice of public diplomacy as well. So here I would like to clarify one significant point here regarding the recognition of China. As we have discussed earlier in our previous discussions, that the US established its diplomatic relationships with China in 1972, and the People's Republic of China got established in on 1st of October 1949, and there was a civil war from 1945 to 1949, and there were like waves of Chinese civil war even before that period. So uh, there were two groups fighting in the Chinese Civil War. One was led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the other was one other was led by Chairman Mao. And the Americans were supporting Chiang Kai-shek because he was approved democratic, and when eventually he got defeated by the revolutionaries led by Chairman Mao during the Civil War, Chinese Civil War. He fled to Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan, which is also known as Formosa, and established Republic of China over there, and which was recognized by the American and most of the other countries around the world by 1962, 1972. And it was eventually in 1972 that the diplomatic relationship were established between People's Republic of China, which is the mainland China, and the Americans, with the help of Pakistan. So the in this were among these 1300 Chinese students that were prepared for future studies at American Institute, the Tsinghua College, which was established in Beijing in 1911, played a very crucial role, and it was the key institution which was emphasized, or which was helping the students to get education. And in 1929, the Tsinghua College was given the status of a university, and 4 years undergraduate and postgraduate programs were launched there when it got the status of a university. As far as the America is concerned, in 1926, China Foundation, later known as the China Institute, was founded in New York, and five groups of scholars educated in US before 1937 Japanese invasion of China. So before the Second World War, which was fought in the continent of Asia as well between the Chinese and the Japanese, So many scholars got education from the American institutes before the initiation of the Second World War. So the indemnity utilized by the Americans to prepare, or to we can say, to uh, project or to implement their plans for public diplomacy in mm, Asian continent, in this case in China in particular. So now we will discuss some of the famous alumni who got education and graduated from the American institutes. So the first here is the philosopher Hu Shi. Later, he became the Chinese ambassador to the U.S., and it is imperative to discuss the physicist Chen Ning Yang, who won the Nobel Prize as well, who also was one of the indemnity scholars. And another one is the mathematician Kai Lai Chung, and the linguistic Yunran Chao, and the rocket scientist Xin Su Shan. So these are the various indemnity scholars who earned a great repute, or who became quite popular in the world, and that can be mentioned as the success story of the U.S. Public diplomacy. And later the US, later the United Kingdom, France, Japan followed that and set up similar academic programs. And eventually the Boxer Rebellion Indemnity Scholar Program became the foundation for, or became a model for, the Fulbright program, which was established in 1946 by the Americans. So another the next point which was emphasized in the US practices of public diplomacy is the charitable and philanthropic foundations. So many of such foundations have been created by the Americans to project their positive image in the eyes of the rest of the world. And the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace was the one which was established in 1910 by the Americans. It is actually a private non-profit organization dedicated to advancing cooperation between nations and promoting active international engagement by the United States. This organization's work is non-partisan and dedicated to achieving practical results. And then in 1911 the first Rotary Club overseas was established by the Americans in Ireland. And as far as the objective of this Rotary International is concerned, it is an international service organization whose stated purpose is to bring together business and professional leaders in order to provide humanitarian services and to advance goodwill and peace around the world. It is again a non-political and non-religious organization which is open to all. So it is a humanitarian based organization which was established by the Americans in 1911. Later, the Rockefeller institution, the foundation was launched by the Americans, and its purpose is to solve global challenges with lasting impact. As far as the key mission of this organization is concerned, it is to improve the lives and the planet and unleash humanitarian potential through innovation. And further, the Institute for International Education was established in 1919, and later the American Red Cross was also established by the Americans, another humanitarian organization. So there are so many other examples of charitable and philanthropic foundations which were created and supported by the Americans to project and achieve the objectives of their public diplomacy, and in particular and foreign policy in general. So this is all about our today's discussion, and in the next lecture we will start with the First World War, and then when we will move with we'll focus our discussion about the Second World War, and then the Cold War. We will discuss the Cold War era as well, and that's how we will conclude our discussion about the history of the US public diplomacy. So if you have any queries, please feel free to write your queries to me through our WhatsApp group. And again, I would like to remind you that your exams are about to start, so you are better advised to keep preparing well for your examinations. Wish you all the best. Stay safe and healthy. See you for the next lecture in this week, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.